Welcome to WTH Happened. What the hell happened this week? I'm Danielle Nava.
And I'm Dustin. WTH, y'all.
WTH indeed. Hello. Everyone come on in. Thank you for joining us today. Certainly not a lack of content this week. So what should we start with?
I say let's talk about the Pope.
Let's talk about the Pope.
Why not?
I I'm not into the whole Pope thing. I was just kind of like nonchalant about it, but I sat down yesterday for lunch. It just so happened to be where they were waiting on the announcement, right? The white smoke had already come out. And I was just listening to the commentators, and I thought it was very interesting because they brought up the fact that one of the people commenting was an expert, on the conclave, and he said, "Yeah, people have been talking about an American pope potential, but the running kind of what most people were thinking, who are experts on the matter, is that because it was chosen so quickly, that was a tell to them that it wouldn't be an American and that would probably be an Italian."
Mm.
So then when it was announced, they immediately were like, wow, like that's significant that it was an American chosen so quickly for the first time. And then, immediately after that, they announced what his chosen name was, which is Leo the 14th. And he immediately, and the same expert commentator said, Leo the 14th was known for representing and fighting for the working class and poor people. And I had a religious experience. I was like, "Oh my god," like, savage, like, right out the gate, I was like 'cause and my sister-in-law was right next to me, and when they announced it was American, she was like, "This is bad." She kind of immediately thought that JD Vance had arranged some
Uh,
sort of coup, some sort of, bribery, uh, situation, and I said to her, just based on those bit of information, I said, "No, this is the opposite. I think they chose an American and they chose him quickly, um, as an affront, as an obvious and clear stance against this regime." And sure enough, it started unfolding. He tweeted that JD Vance was wrong about how Jesus loved people. He retweeted, Taylor Swift. He's a Swiftie.
it's a
He's
Swifty.
pro-immigration, all of these things. So, it's exciting.
Yeah, uh, it was like kind of off my radar.
Mm.
I don't even remember seeing him as an option on some of the videos that I saw. And I was afraid that since Francis left, because Francis was pretty break he broke the mold. He's
Yeah,
pretty
he did.
progressive on climate and lots of other things. So it's just so refreshing to see the church trying to um, be
Continue.
more modern.
Yeah.
Of course, there's still lots of issues, but yeah, this is a step in it. Yeah, like you said, is definitely a repudiation to Trump. Like Trump is like making the rest of the world come together.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like fascism is getting rejected across the world. Progressives and the liberal parties are winning more. Um, and yeah, and there was a tweet that somebody said that now Trump is the second most influential American, and that's got to hurt bad.
That too. That
Yeah,
too.
so
I
let
just
that.
feel like it was very strategic. Um,
Yeah,
and I was worried about the pendulum swing, right? Francis was very, modest. He took stances that were more liberal than other past popes of recent decades. And so, yeah, I was worried that the pendulum might swing in the other direction and go back to a certain brand of conservative, but it seems like they are continuing in line. And let's also mention that Bob, has links back to Louisiana and New Orleans. His grandparents lived in the 7th Ward, which is just a few blocks from where me and my husband's first home was when we
Very
first
cool.
started dating. So that's been very exciting. He's got Creole, Caribbean roots. He's spent most of his work has been in mission work, specifically in Peru. So these are all great things. I see this as a very positive step forward, and we have to try and find the silver linings, just like Trump is making everyone rethink their far right stances and tendencies across the world. We got to take the wins where we can find them.
Yeah, and just from some of his tweets, pro-immigration, upset at Trump and JD Vance's immigration policy and gun policy. So it's just so nice to see that. Um, yeah, so pretty happy about it.
It's good news.
Yeah.
And I think it's talk about being strategic. Part of it I do think, I mean, not to completely center America and sound like a selfish American, but I do think there's a possibility that it's this idea because a lot of people right now in America who consider themselves devout Christians and Catholics, most of those people align with MAGA and voted for Trump. And there's a chance that the Catholic Church maybe recognize that this shift of Jesus's teachings, um, people getting off track of
Yeah, has
what it
been
really
lost.
means to be a Christian. So I think about people like our mom, who's considers herself a devout Catholic and voted for Trump. And maybe there's a chance there for him to um, influence or change the minds and hearts of American conservatives.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's too outlandish to say that or too selfish to say that because America is, as of today, still a global leader and influence the rest of the world in many different ways. So again, I just think it was a very strategic move on many different levels.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up because yeah, it's like if Jesus came today, like he would be like called woke, liberal,
Socialist.
socialist, everything, communist, Marxist. That's what he would be called, and he would be shunned by a lot of Americans. And so,
He
um,
was an extremist. That's why he was crucified.
right. So, positive step, JD Vance. Um, let's see. He's like the walking, what do you call it? The guy that brings death to everybody, the Grim Reaper. You know, so, visited India, and now India's in war. But this is a positive thing. Like we got a great pope out of it. So maybe there will be peace on the horizon with India once they get through this, India and Pakistan. But JD Vance certainly knows how to create chaos. Broke the national championship trophy too. Um, so I
What
thought
a
everything that Trump touched turned to shit, but it appears that JD Vance may even be just as bad or worse.
I mean, the whole crew is guilty by association, so everything they touch is gonna be scorched to earth and crumble.
Yeah, speaking of uh, the Trump administration and their terrible appointments, I have a few things I want to talk about. Janine Pirro, Fox
Stop.
News. So,
Can we get anyone any more obnoxious than that? I don't think so.
DC prosecutor. Um, uh, Also, we have a new Surgeon General. Is that right? Is Surgeon General, I guess, that RFK appointed, not a doctor.
Not
Um,
didn't even graduate med school. Great.
well,
Great.
well, didn't finish residency. I don't know all the specifics to do with that, but they
She's a
always
dropout. She's a doctor dropout.
but they always like say like, well, graduated top in her class at Stanford. I'm like, well, I don't know if I believe that, if that's their qualifier on anything, because so many untruths come out of their mouth. So I don't even know that. but
Mhm.
that's not the qualification. And then RFK in the recent interview said she left the residency because she walked away from traditional medicine. So that's what we want as our Surgeon General, someone who walked away from traditional medicine. You know,
And Trump,
medicine, the thing that we rely on for our health.
right,
I guess is
right, because
traditional. What is
of
what is the
of
new medicine? I'm not sure what the new medicine is that we're all
well, this
supposed to
is
get on.
right in line with authoritarian fascist regimes rejecting science. That's right on brand. And Trump clearly said in the interview, he said he didn't know her, but Bobby recommended her, and he's just going with that. So
And evidently, like all the Republicans are jumping on this Maha bandwagon now. Like
have
all of a
been
sudden, all these people, um, all of a sudden are health nuts. So we have a big movement here in Louisiana that they're going to make Louisiana healthy again. Because we're some of the worst in everything. You know, obesity, cancer, all kinds of things. But are
maternal
they?
maternal
Yes,
health.
yes. So I agree that we should make Louisiana healthy again. But something tells me that these MAGA nuts are not are not going to make us more healthy because they're completely eliminating like EPA emission standards, trying to get rid of the Clean Air Act. Just had another oil spill off Louisiana coast. None of that's being talked about, but they're trying to take fluoride out of our water. I mean, I don't know. I guess it has helped for our teeth. I'm just wondering what they're gonna fuck up coming up. Um, Now they also are taking um, uh, where you can't use SNAP benefits to buy anything with sugar in it and stuff. You know, people have thoughts about that, but at the same time, our governor Jeff Landry, one of the most MAGA governors in the nation, tries to do everything after Trump. Um, so he's all for banning sugary sweets and stuff like that. But have you looked at his expense reports that the taxpayers of Louisiana pay for? It's like full of candy. He is
So
he is cranking back Dr. Peppers,
why are
Cokes,
we pay,
M&Ms like at a
why are we
at a
paying for that?
at
Why
an
are the Louisiana
absurd
tax,
pace.
huh?
Like he is buying a tremendous amount of candy. It's just kind of weird.
Again, and this whole idea of trying to punish the poor, and this idea of because they really do think that people on welfare uh just use the money to buy junk, and they just sit on their ass all day, and they think that they're just leeches on society. So of course they're gonna think, oh well, let's ban their ability to buy sodas and candy. And by the way, some of those things, I saw somebody posted, some of those sodas people need medically. There are some reasons why people need sugar in their lives. But I just feel like it's very anti-American to say, and especially to start with the poor and take away something that's a God-given American natural right to have some sweets. And
And these are
by the way,
finish your
remember,
thought.
huh?
No, I was gonna say finish your thought because I had something to say on it too.
Remember when Michelle Obama tried to introduce healthy lunches and people
What?
lost their
Yeah,
goddamn
I
how
remember
dare
like they.
she, the overreach, trying to indoctrinate our children
I
and
remember Sarah Palin like being like on the stump saying like our children need cookies. You know, I'm like,
and here's Jeff Landry taking away candy and sweets from SNAP benefits while he purchases candy by the wheelbarrow. by the wheelbarrows under the Louisiana taxpayer money.
Well, Danielle, and you hit on it already. These are messaging bills.
Yeah.
These are on purpose to demonize poor people. That they want, just like Ronald Reagan um, had this vision of of he tried to paint a picture of, he made the term welfare queen, riding around in a Cadillac, eating steaks and not working. And of
Mhm.
course, referred to like a black woman riding in a Cadillac, taking everybody's money. These are all messaging bills to reinforce um, uh, all of that. And it's and they're also doing it with Medicaid as well, because they try to act like anybody that is on any kind of government support, and they're looping in Medicare and even Social Security into this too, but especially Medicaid. And the stats on that, even with stats, show that most of these people are working people.
Yeah.
They just don't have enough money to pay for a lot of these things because they have just terrible wages. And of course, in Louisiana, it's the worst.
Yeah.
Um, we have the lowest wages, I'm sure, in the nation. Maybe Mississippi is worse than us. But again, they're health nuts all of a sudden. They're going to fix America or Louisiana and make us all healthy again.
And
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 something tells me that's not going to happen.
yeah, and this all comes down to Eric and Harley here are commenting. It all comes down to racism, right?
Yeah.
They rejected what Michelle Obama said because ultimately she's a black woman, and how dare she have any common sense on the matter. And a majority of people on welfare in Louisiana are black. It's racism and bigotry and
This,
targeting, and ultimately it's the messaging of dividing us and making us fight amongst ourselves, and thinking having middle class and the poor class fighting each other while the billionaires in the top 0.5% rob us blind.
Exactly. This it goes back to the Southern strategy that we've seen this mostly in the Southern states, because we have the highest percentage Black populations. We're the most Republican. We're the most reactionary, and it's been used for generations now to split us, to get white working class people mad at Black working class people, to say that the reason white working you're still poor is because all these black people are lazy and they're taking all of the support that you should really have, because since you're working,
It
and gets them to fight each other while, yeah, like you said, while
it's
they
the
pick all of our
same
pockets.
it's the same plot of that cartoon where the wealthy guys telling the working class it's because they're taking your piece of the pie, and it's the same script that's being used for the anti-immigration policies as well. They're
Yeah, that
here
means
and they're taking a piece of your pie. You're not where you want to be because of the other enemy. And whether it's black people, Hispanic people, um, immigrants, whatever the villain du jour is, that's it. It's a basic script centered around racism and scarcity.
And then it goes back to why they demonize government so much. They want government to be, they've whittled it away so much, where the services, where it's you call in now to Social Security, you can't get somebody on the phone. They want them to come away from that phone call thinking government can't handle this. When at the same time they defunded it on purpose
Hmm.
to get people to think that way so they can privatize things like Social Security. They want to privatize everything. Public school, they have defunded public schools over the last number of generations to where it they have ways to say like our teachers aren't getting, because teachers aren't getting paid enough. Teachers may be fleeing public schools and going elsewhere, and yes, it's hurting our education system. But they want to say, see, government can't do it, um, and that's why we should get rid of government and have everything privatized. That's all the plan.
Just like the jails and everything else,
Yeah, speaking
which has been proven that as soon as things get privatized, go to hell. Like there's not even statistics supporting that plan.
In a microcosm of that, now that we're talking about children and candy, now saying that they should have only $2 instead of 20. Um, of course, they always say things that always have like a small kernel of, yes, a lot of kids have a lot of toys and stuff like that. We are a material culture. I would argue it's because of their forces that they've made money off of, but now they turn it around on us, um, and say that, we can deal with 5 pencils and $2 instead of 20. At the same time, their net worths are shooting up. Donald Trump's net worth, I think, shot up by like $2 billion just in the past few months. So they are just stealing from everybody and telling us that we need to tighten our belt. This
And
is
it
not gonna. This is not gonna last. I mean, people are. I hope to God, people start seeing this in the coming months.
and that narrative of um Trump basically telling the American people to start getting ready to buckle down and stop spending. It reminds me of I started now we're going to talk about this in more detail once I finish the documentary, but I started Finding the Money, a documentary about modern monetary theory. It's on Prime. I started, but it reminded me of how they were talking about how World War II was funded, and it wasn't that America needed more money. They had the money. They needed the propaganda was around having the American people stop spending. It was all about save more, don't buy so much now because they didn't want inflation to run rampant. And this is a similar situation where inflation is going to get out of control, especially with the tariffs and everything that Trump is doing. To be honest, but it's this propaganda of trying to prepare the American people
The
to,
condition us.
to condition us to stop spending to keep inflation from getting out of control, as if it was our fault and not his, as if he didn't create this emergency single handedly.
Yeah, Harley, thank you for putting those wages in the comments there. Yeah, we have some of the lowest wages, and yeah, I mean a living wage too. Uh, you know, I love those stats because I mean minimum wage over here is national average 7.25. I mean that's the minimum wage, but a living wage is really like $30 an hour, and it's different for like different people. I mean wages are just so low now, but no plans to tackle that. And I'm guessing if people had higher wages, we'd have better health in our country, but you can't talk about that. Let's just get rid of fluoride and um, attack vaccines. Like that's going to fix everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of, I think Eric mentioned something about Nixon. Yeah, all the staff. I mean, it's basically the same staffers of Nixon, but they learned to not give in um, uh, because Nixon went down, and so the same people that were there, former Nixon staffers, um, drawing a blank on their names right now. Uh, it just reminded me of a good documentary I saw that came out on Netflix, Turning Point Vietnam. I would recommend people go watch that too, because I think a lot of the beginnings of what we're seeing today in the split of America, the law and order stuff, all that really,
Rumsfeld.
yeah, Rumsfeld, but it was also Roger Stone and what's the other guy that got indicted on criminal charges that was a go-between Putin and Trump in his first term. He was Trump's campaign manager. I forgot his name, but he was also a staffer for Nixon all during Vietnam and everything. So it's just a lot of the ties from the late 60s, early 70s is kind of where we are today. Do we have any good news in the past week, Danielle?
The Pope was good news. The Pope was good.
Yeah. Oh, we got a new mayor here in Lake Charles,
Yes, let's talk
Louisiana.
about that. And I had a note that kind of went a little viral. Um, the the fact that in Lake Charles, Louisiana, that our parish in 2024 voted for Trump 69%. It was even higher in 2020, I believe. But our parish is very red, deep red. Um, we've been saying for a while, though, that Lake Charles is more Democratic, but for the last past 8 years, we've elected a Republican. And it seems like every local election goes to the Republicans these days. Um, but what happened on Saturday, I can't believe it hasn't even been a week, was that Lake Charles, Louisiana elected our very first Black mayor. He ran as an independent, but he has background in history as a Democrat. And
Yeah, he's been a Democrat all his life until a few months ago he changed. Uh, and it worked.
it was a
But
strategy.
he's been open about saying he voted for Kamala, he voted for Biden, and he voted for Hillary. So in all the past elections. So I mean, he's a Democrat.
What's significant about why he won, and then this is in no way to discredit his um, ability and competence and deservingness of this role. I think personally, I think the incumbent could have easily won had he had not done two things. First of which is he acted very arrogant in his debates. That didn't help him. People started to get a really sour taste in their mouth. Like he very clearly showed that he acted childish when he was challenged, couldn't accept any feedback, and started to get arrogant. And second, and I think the larger issue here is the incumbent made a decision to purchase and release these direct mailers, huge direct full color mailers.
And
And
those are expensive, I know.
yeah, I think he probably spent like $100,000 on these because everyone got them, and a text messaging campaign. And it was a MAGA centered language saying, you can't skip out this vote because, what is it, far left, so out of town, crazy people, socialists are coming to steal this election. There's outside influence. And I'm
Full
going
of
to read
dog
it, pulling
whistles
it up
and
right here.
fire.
Don't let out of state activists influence Lake Charles elections. A radical leftist group is spending thousands to defeat me and influence our election. Don't let them win because you stayed home. And people took to Facebook. This strategy backfired. People were pissed because
That's
nobody
the
knew.
best thing that happened.
Nobody was getting any messaging from out of town radical leftists. So people took to Facebook and said, "What the f is this? This is desperate. This is dog whistling. This is fear mongering. This is the MAGA playbook. This is the MAGA script."
Yeah, and they showed a picture of like a black woman like talking into a microphone.
I'm going
You
to
know,
show.
it was
This
yeah.
is
There you go.
that
Don't
was
want yeah.
essentially
They don't want
the.
black women
I
talking
mean,
in Lake Charles.
you want to piss off a black community? That's what you do. You fear
Yeah,
bait. You use a black woman as a symbol of fear mongering, and this community rejected it. He won
yeah,
52. Marshall Simeon won 52% to 48.
yeah. I think that's won the election because it was a PR nightmare for our incumbent mayor, Nick Hunter, who's always presented himself as a moderate. He always presented himself that way. And then to see him go full MAGA in desperation um, pissed off a lot of people. And I saw a lot of Republicans were turning on him too. It's
Mm-hmm.
just even turning on him about the mailers. So it just little things like that, in this WTH week that we've had, little things like that give me hope. And, you know, I laugh about it too sometimes. The comment sections on Facebook are getting better. You know,
They're at
There-
least on KPLC, our affiliate, like NBC
there's
news
always like
station.
hundreds of comments on every
It's
thing.
becoming, it used to be like 90-10% skewed towards MAGA right wing, and now it's like 50-50,
Yeah,
which is a huge swing. But I was gonna say this win, and I told Andreas, my husband, right before the election, a few hours before the polls closed, because if y'all remember, if you've been following along with what the hell happened this week since we started it in March, at the end of March, remember, Jeff Landry tried to roll out the same MAGA script and fear mongering for the amendments that we won. We defeated
yes,
his what he was trying to achieve there. He lost by a landslide,
yeah, and
which
there was some.
it took both sides coming together to reject that. And so I told Andreas right before the polls closed, I go, if Marshall wins, this will be the first time that I really have some legitimate hope for the future. Because if it can happen, if we can reject extreme right wing MAGA scripts and campaigns in Louisiana, it can happen throughout the country.
Yeah, and it's kind of
Not a
like
question.
a weird, unlikely coalition. Um, Democrats, the base, increasing their turnout. I think we had a black turnout a little higher than average in both situations, statewide amendments and in Lake Charles. Um, I think independents, um, which is a very large portion of our electorate, are independents. I think independents, we're seeing that in the polling and nationwide too, that they're kind of turning against MAGA. And you're seeing a slice of the Republicans too.
Yeah.
Um, I remember in a lot of my, because I went very hard against the amendments, talking about them on TikTok and everything. And I would see a lot of, hey, I'm a Republican and I'm against this, and they're watching the videos. Uh, uh, I think some of the church, some of the religious community has been turning against some of these for different reasons. So it's like kind of an unlikely coalition. This gives me, gives me hope. I'm a little excited about it because I think that's something that we can build on here in Louisiana. Because again, we're the testing grounds for the
Mhm.
rest of the nation. If we can fix some things here, it flows to the rest of the nation. So that's, I think, things that us as Democrats here in Louisiana or across the South, that we just really need to figure out how we can um, tend these and water our garden of the building these coalitions.
And I really like what well, my favorite, my president, Mayor Pete Buttigieg has been on essentially like a PR tour. Um and I really like the message that he's putting out there, which is the Democrats, but like because there was a segment he was talking about the low approval ratings of Democrats. They're slightly lower than Republicans are low too. But he said we have to essentially rewrite the script and how Democrats talk to the people and how we demonstrate and show them how it's going to be different. Not just pointing out some of the bad things about Trump's policies, because still, for the most part, people who voted for Trump are still liking what they're seeing. I know it's hard to believe, but the Democrats really have to hone in on the messaging and really getting a little more simple and not falling for all of all of the distractions, right? We know what those distractions are. Every time they bring them up, it's like all they have to do is bring up a certain topic and it puts us on our heels to try and defend it. We have to have an offensive strategy to counteract if we're going to win. And while I'm seeing the specific rejection of MAGA scripts here, I still think on a national scale that's not going to be enough. So Pete's I think he's on the right path. He obviously is one of the best speakers of our time, and just such a great conversationalist, and he, uh, just a really good speaker, and being able to get complicated concepts out in a very simple way. I want to see more of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I think it's best shown in that interview. Uh, you can look at it on YouTube. I forgot the name of the podcast bros that were doing it. I like whenever Pete was giving a very simple, like a day in the life of,
Mhm.
like what
Yeah.
what Democrats represent. You know, waking up in the morning and taking a shower, drinking water that you know is clean. Um, you know, and then taking your children to school at a strong public school where you know they're going to get educated, and then driving to work or taking public transportation to work. And you know, he walked them through this day, um, and all of them were like, "Whoa, bro, cut that!" You know, they like blew them
It's
away.
by the way, the podcast is called Flagrant.
Yeah,
Like
um,
flagrantly dumb.
but yeah, but it was like so simple, and those are the terms that we need. Is just trying to make everyday life just a little bit better, and a lot of these things we need government for. You know, I always say this. Teddy Roosevelt's quote that the government is us. We are the government. That was his quote because he was fighting a lot of the same things when you know he was called the trust buster back in the day. Again, we're fighting monopolies now. Um, but realizing that there's the reason that we have government is to achieve things and fix problems that we can't do by ourselves. It
Mhm.
takes collective action, collective solutions for all of these, a lot of things in our daily life. And that the reason that we're for government, which again, they've demonized for the past few decades. So it's hard to break through to people because people now just like automatically think government bad. You know,
And they're gonna
private.
have to feel it themselves, and that's what's about to happen
Yeah.
because the dismantling and firing of all of our federal employees, the dismantling of all of our departments and systems, it's coming, and
Look at Newark Airport. You know, there's going to be some major issues for people to see. Like, oh, damn, we do need government for that. Yeah,
look,
we need government for that too. Yeah, because I can't do it myself, and I don't trust McDonald's to do it or Amazon to fix these problems, like or Trump or any of the other billionaires. Like, no, we have to do it collectively together.
listen, I am flying on Monday, and I'm scared. I
Right.
I can't remember. I've been scared since the plane started flying out of the sky. What was it, February? I'm scared to death. Like, I think if I would've if my flight was going through Newark, I would either change it or cancel it, but even as it is, like, just flying to Charlotte, like, I'm scared. That the fact that people are actually having to think about, like, losing their life as they fly in America is, um, it's a sad moment. It doesn't have to be this way.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I don't like flying as it is. I always get nervous flying ever since I was a kid. And now, yeah, it's just I don't
I've always
trust these
loved flying.
guys. I don't trust Sean Duffy from Real World and Fox News host.
Like,
I'm sorry. I don't trust.
how many, like, reality people and so-called reality journalists do we now have running the country?
Yeah,
Wait,
like
there's also a hire somebody, having to do they hired an actual Real Housewife to run, like, the Holocaust Museum here in town, like I'm not here in town, but, like, I just saw it, an actual Real Housewife has been hired.
it's yeah, they've turned like they have demonized affirmative action, DEI, despite all the tremendous progress that we've had over the last number of decades in getting uh, more having a more diverse workforce and and more people getting education. And now, you know, they've just completely are trying to erase um, the history of what Black people have done for America and stuff. And now they have their own affirmative action of
Exactly.
being a place to hire stupid people. So they're like kicking out all the well qualified people and diverse groups that we have throughout our government and replacing them with fucking idiots.
Meanwhile, you have people like us and who are watching, and to us, the solutions feel very clear. Like, I was just thinking it over, especially watching that documentary last night. It's very simple. We need to, because the wealth inequality is getting out of control. There's only so much money in the money supply. You can't just print the new money because that would make inflation go up. We got to start taxing the wealthy fairly. We got to end Citizens United so politicians can have fair chances at winning elections. And we've got to close those tax loopholes and the Social Security caps. And all of these things are very clear solutions to our society right now. And they're out fighting wars that just divide us. And it's just so frustrating to sit through this and witness it.
Yeah, and we have to invest more in our people. We have to invest, you know, Biden knew this, that's why we passed the
Infrastructure.
infrastructure bill. That's why we passed the Inflation Reduction Act. It took small steps on climate and things. Like we really have, if we want to invest in manufacturing, let's build the new economy.
Mhm.
We're going to need a tremendous amount of capital and money movement to invest and create a green energy future, which we gonna have to have if we want to if we want to lead again in the world. Let's invest in that and let's put
Mhm.
everybody to work. Let's rebuild a high-speed rail and put people to work and save people money. You by by getting off of um, over reliance on oil and gas and then using the unlimited energy of nature, which is all around us. The power of the sun and wind and water and everything like that is free and unlimited. So, like we need to transform. That is coming in America. That's the vision I think is coming after we get through this. Hopefully people, after Trump kind of destroys everything, if we're all still alive and not scattered around the world because we're running from him, I do see a better future where because I think that's really what Americans want. Seeing a new society where we can have a lot of things where people have good paying jobs and we have clean environment and a thriving economy. That is all achievable.
And meanwhile, they're just focusing on tearing families apart. I mean, the videos that come out more and more every day
The one I saw today was just horrific.
in
Of
Massachusetts.
ICE, yeah, tackling like a young girl and a mother, and it's just like
Fucking sick.
horrifying.
They don't have to do it this way. They This is a choice they are doing. And as a society, we're going to have to be paying for this for a long time.
Yeah.
I just can't. And then it's going to get worse, it's, but
Well,
anything else we need to
I'm
touch
trying
on?
to find trying to find something
Wait,
positive to close on.
should we go back to the Pope? So, the
Yeah,
Pope,
we have a woke pope.
Leo.
What was it? Oh, so yeah, the tweet of the day. Laura Loomer said like woke Marxist Pope, like all in all caps, and somebody retweeted it um like the Pink Pony theme song, like this should be the words. Woke Marxist Pope, Marxist Pope. So hey,
Yes.
let's
And I
leave with
bet he
that.
would retweet it. I bet Leo would retweet that. We just need to create it for him. Man.
Yes,
And by the way, he's only 69 years old, so we'll probably have him for like 2 decades. It could be very
nice.
transformative, very influential.
Yeah,
My
yes, the influence around the world. I think some
Yeah,
some real good could come out of it.
yeah, we'll see. But we'll take whatever win we can get. We'll continue to look out for what's going on in Louisiana. What's the next battle we have? Obviously, we're in a legislative session, um, and they're going to try and pass a bunch of batshit crazy stuff. So, y'all follow Dustin if you want to follow along what's going on specifically with the bills that they're trying to pass. Like we always say, Louisiana is a training ground for the rest of the state. But Eric,
Yeah.
unless they assassinate him. Um, yeah. So we'll see. Um, guess we'll close on that. Y'all say a prayer for me flying on Monday. And oh, happy birthday to Dustin, who celebrated his birthday. It's like
45.
Wednesday. You're officially like really midlife. I'm right behind you. My birthday's next Wednesday.
Yep.
This is our you've got a daughter that had her birthday already. My twins have their birthday on May 20th. We've got Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all of you wonderful moms out there.
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day.
And we'll talk to you next week.
Okay. Bye,
Okay.
y'all.
Bye.